The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets in the dim hospital room, casting jagged shadows over my mother's frail body as she gasped her last breath. My father, Christopher Harlan, gripped her hand so tight his knuckles bleached white, his voice cracking like thunder in a summer storm. "Forgive me, Ellen." Anthony. He was my truth, and in that frozen instant, as the heart monitor flatlined into a deafening wail, I realized the man I'd idolized my whole life was a stranger, a ghost haunting our perfect American dream. I was 28, fresh off a red-eye from Chicago, the kind of flight that leaves you hollowed out and tasting regret. We'd flown back to our roots in small-town Ohio, the place where cornfields stretched like golden regrets under endless blue skies, and family barbecues masked the rot beneath. Mom's cancer had come swift and vicious, stage 4 pancreatic. The doc said no time for miracles, just enough for goodbyes. I'd rushed from my high-rise apartment in the Loop, where I coded algorithms for faceless tech bros, to this beige purgatory in Cleveland Clinic. Dad had been stoic on the phone, his gravelly voice steady as ever. "She's holding on, son. Get here quick." But now, as nurses swarmed like vultures, his facade cracked wide open. That whisper, "Anthony," it lodged in my throat like a fishbone. Who the hell was Anthony? Dad's poker face, honed from 40 years as a high school football coach in Millersburg, the Heartland hero who'd led the Raiders to 3 state championships, flickered with something raw, forbidden. Mom's eyes, milky and distant, fluttered shut forever, and the room erupted in chaos. Beeps silenced. Condolences murmured, my Aunt Rita sobbing into her monogrammed hanky. I stood there, numb, the weight of unspoken histories pressing down like the humid weight of an Ohio July. We buried her under a canopy of ancient oaks in the Lutheran cemetery, the one with the iron gates that creaked like accusations. The service was textbook Midwest, potluck casseroles in the fellowship hall, eulogies laced with "she was the glue" platitudes, and Dad at the podium, his broad shoulders squared in that navy suit he saved for funerals and Fridays. "Ellen was my rock," he boomed, voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. "The woman who made this town feel like home." I sat in the front pew, fidgeting with my tie, replaying that name in my head. Anthony. Gnawed at me, a splinter under the skin of our grief. Afterward, the house felt like a museum of her absence. The floral wallpaper she'd picked out in '98, the kitchen table scarred from decades of family dinners, the master bedroom where Dad now slept alone, door ajar like an invitation to ghosts. I moved back in temporarily, telling myself it was to help him sort through the papers, the what-ifs. Truth was, I couldn't leave him to drown in silence. Christopher Harlan, 62, with salt and pepper hair cropped military short and hands calloused from tossing spirals to wide-eyed boys, had always been my anchor. He taught me to throw a curveball, to fix a carburetor, to shake off a loss with a slap on the back and a next play. Kid. But now, his eyes, those piercing blue eyes that could silence a locker room, darted away when they met mine. Started small. I'd catch him staring out the bay window at the backyard fire pit, where Mom used to sip Chardonnay and laugh at his bad jokes. One night, a week after the funeral, I found him in the garage, hunched over his old workbench, polishing a tarnished silver whistle, the one he'd blown at every game. "Dad," I said, flipping on the light. He startled, nearly dropping it, his face a mask of startled deer. "Alex," he grunted, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Couldn't sleep. Same. I leaned against the door frame, the air thick with oil and memory. You okay? He set the whistle down, wiped his hands on a rag. Just thinking about your mom. How she deserved better than this mess. Mess. The word hung there, sharp as a cleat. What mess? Dad? You gave her everything. He laughed, bitter and low, like exhaust from a '72 Chevy. Everything but the truth, son. Then he clammed up, busied himself with a socket wrench. Pressed, but he deflected like a pro. Talked weather, the Browns' slim playoff chances, anything but the chasm yawning between us. The name surfaced again 2 days later, innocuous as a receipt in Mom's old recipe box. I was clearing the pantry, stacking tuna cans like Jenga blocks, when a yellowed envelope tumbled out, postmarked from San Francisco, 1985. No return address, just A. In looping script. Heart pounding, I slid it open. Inside, a single Polaroid, faded but vivid, a younger dad, maybe 25, arms slung around a broad-shouldered guy with sun-kissed skin and a mischievous grin, both shirtless on a beach, waves crashing behind them. On the back, miss this, Chris. Come back to the city. Hey, my stomach twisted. Anthony. The Pacific glittered in miniature, mocking the flatlands of Ohio. Dad's laugh lines were softer then, his body lean from whatever wild youth he'd buried. I stuffed it back, pulse hammering, and waited for him that evening. He came home from the high school late, smelling of chalk dust and regret, tie loosened like a noose. Dad, we need to talk. I thrust the photo at him across the Formica counter. His face drained of color, then flushed crimson. Where'd you? Mom's stuff. Who is he? Christopher sank into a chair, head in hands. Jesus, Alex. You weren't supposed to see that. See what? Some college buddy? Or the reason you whispered his name while she died? He looked up, eyes wet, the coach's armor shattering. Anthony. Tony. He was everything I couldn't be. The confession spilled out in fits, like a dam cracking under floodwaters. Back in '84, Dad had bolted from Millersburg after high school, hitchhiked to California on a Greyhound dream, chasing the neon haze of freedom. Landed in the Castro, San Francisco's beating gay heart, where men like him, confused, hungry for touch, found mirrors in bar lights and backroom glances. That's where he met Anthony Russo, an Italian-Irish firecracker from Brooklyn, 22 and unapologetically out, slinging drinks at a leather bar called the Eagle. They called it the Summer of Love. Part 2, Dad said, voice rough as sandpaper. AIDS was whispering in the alleys, but we didn't care. Tony had this laugh like fireworks on the 4th. We danced till dawn, fucked like the world was ending. He taught me to love without apology, to kiss a man under street lamps without looking over my shoulder. I gripped the counter, the world tilting. My father, the straight-arrow patriarch who'd railed against city decadence at Thanksgiving tables, had lived a double life? Then what? You just left. Ellen, he whispered, as if her name was absolution. I met her at a diner in Reno, on my way back east. Sweet, steady Ellen, with her apple pie smile and dreams of picket fences. She didn't know about Tony, about the nights I cried myself raw missing him. I proposed because it felt safe like armor. Buried it all when I got the job here. Coached those boys like they were my salvation. The betrayal stung like vinegar in a cut. Mom, the woman who'd ironed my little league uniforms, who'd cheered horse at games, loving a man who yearned for another. Did you ever cheat? After. He shook his head, fierce. No. Swore it off. Tony wrote once a year, postcards from his life, promotions, lovers, that beach house in Malibu. I burned most, but that photo. Kept it like a scar. We sat in silence, the clock ticking like a bomb. I wanted to hate him, to scream for the lies that poisoned our home. But seeing him there, vulnerable, stripped bare, I felt a pull, a thread of understanding. I dated women in college, checked boxes, but late nights scrolling Grindr in my Windy City apartment whispered questions I shoved down. Was this genetic, or just the human mess of wanting? The next weeks blurred into a tense détente. Dad threw himself into coaching, barking orders at practice like penance, while I sifted through boxes, unearthing more fragments. A mixtape labeled CNT85 in Dad's scrawl, hidden in the attic rafters, Bruce Springsteen crooning Thunder Road over fuzzy synths. I played it on the old boombox, the boss's howl echoing our fractured bond. One evening, as rain lashed the windows, I confronted him again. What if Mom knew? At the end, his jaw tightened. She did. Sort of. Last year, after the diagnosis, she found the letters I'd saved in the safe. Confronted me in the den, voice like ice. Go to him, Chris. Live what I couldn't give you, but I couldn't leave her to die alone. Tears carved tracks down his weathered cheeks. I pulled him into a hug, the first in years, his body shaking against mine. I'm sorry, Dad. For everything. In the quiet aftermath, curiosity morphed to compulsion. I needed to see this ghost, to touch the edges of Dad's hidden world. Late one night, fueled by bourbon and insomnia, I fired up my laptop and Googled Anthony Russo San Francisco. Hits flooded. A real estate mogul, out and proud, featured in Out magazine for queer philanthropy, his smile still electric in gala photos. A phone number, buried in an old donor list. Heart slamming, I dialed. Russo Realty. This is Anthony. His voice, warm, accented with Brooklyn bite, sent chills racing. Mr. Russo, this is Alex Harlan. Christopher's son. Silence, then a sharp intake. Holy shit. Is he? He's alive. Grieving. And he needs you. We arranged it swift. Anthony flying into Cleveland on a red eye. No questions. Just the pull of unfinished symphonies. Dad didn't know. I sprang it on him over coffee. The morning of. Someone's coming today. For you. His mug clattered. Coffee splashing like blood. Alex. No. I can't. Too late. He's here for Mom's memorial. If you want. Or just. Closure. The airport reunion was pure cinematic heartbreak. Anthony stepping off the escalator in a crisp button-down, silver threading his dark hair, I scanning like a hawk till they locked on Dad. Time folded. Dad froze, then surged forward, enveloping him in a bear hug that drew stares from harried travelers. Tony, he breathed, muffled in wool. Chris. God, look at you. Still breaking hearts. They drove back in my rental, Anthony in the passenger seat, regaling us with sanitized tales of Bay Area life, tech booms, pride parades that shut down the Golden Gate. But under the banter, electricity crackled, stolen glances, knees brushing in the console. At the house, over meatloaf I charred in Mom's Le Creuset, the floodgates burst. "I never stopped loving you," Anthony said, fork midway to mouth. "Wrote those letters thinking one day you'd come back." When Ellen passed, I mourned her too, you know. The woman who held you when I couldn't. Dad's hand trembled across the table, covering Anthony's. I was a coward. Built this life on sand, scared of what Millersburg would say. The team, the church, hell, even you, Alex. Thought it'd make me straight by osmosis. I cleared my throat, the air thick. It almost broke us. But I'm glad you're here. Both of you. That night, as thunder rolled over Lake Erie, I heard them, murmurs from the guest room, laughter soft as silk, then gasps that twisted my gut with vicarious ache. Not revulsion, but envy, a spark igniting my own buried fires. The next morning, Anthony lingered over pancakes, sketching plans. "Come to the city, Chris. Or let me come here." We finished the story proper, but controversy brewed like a storm front. Aunt Rita dropped by unannounced, her Bible tucked under arm like a shield, catching Anthony mid-embrace with Dad in the kitchen. "Christopher Harlan, what in God's name?" Her screech could curdle milk. The fallout was biblical. Rita stormed out, dialing cousins and congregants, whispers spreading like prairie fire through Millersburg. By noon, the school board called, "Suspension pending review. Coach, this lifestyle doesn't align with our values." Dad's face crumpled, the hero dethroned. Protests erupted, picket lines at the field house, signs scrawled with slurs. "Groomer goes home." Local news vans clogged our driveway, reporters baying for the scandal that rocked the heartland. I shielded the door, phone buzzing with texts from old teammates. "WTF? Coach? You ruined my childhood idols." Betrayal cut deepest from within. My own reflection in the mirror, questioning if I'd inherited more than blue eyes. One night, amid the siege, Anthony pulled me aside on the porch, rain sheeting down. "Your dad's stronger than he knows, kid. But this town's poison. You coming with?" I hesitated, the pull of Chicago's anonymity warring with loyalty's chains. "What about him? He won't leave his legacy to rot." "Then we fight." Anthony's grin was defiant, a middle finger to the bigots. "Or we burn it down and build queer." The climax hit like a blindside tackle. The town hall meeting, packed with red-faced locals baying for Dad's blood. Rita led the charge, pulpit thumping about family values and Sodom's shadow. Dad took the mic, voice steady as a quarterback's cadence. 40 years ago, I chose silence to fit your mold. Loved a woman who deserved the stars. Raised a son who's twice the man I'll ever be. But hiding killed pieces of me. Anthony, he's the light I dimmed. If that offends, then fire me. But know this, love isn't a sin, fear is. The room erupted. Cheers from the back, where younger faces, inspired queers and allies, drowned out the booze. Fists flew. I waded in, pulling Dad clear as chairs splintered. Anthony flanked us, a human wall, his New York snarl scattering the mob. "Touch him, you touch us all." We fled to the truck, adrenaline surging, hearts pounding in sync. In the rear view, Millersburg shrank, a speck of prejudice under street lamps. Where to? I asked, tires eating asphalt toward I-71. San Francisco, Dad said, hand laced with Anthony's. Start over. You in, son? I nodded, the road unspooling like possibility. Chicago could wait. This was family, redefined. The highway hummed beneath us, a black ribbon slicing through Pennsylvania's rolling hills, the kind of drive that strips you bare and rebuilds you mile by mile. Dad rode shotgun, window cracked to let in the chill November bite, while Anthony sprawled in the back, feet up on the cooler of PBRs we'd cracked for road baptism. I gripped the wheel, FM radio crackling with Springsteen. Ironic, the boss wailing about highways and ghosts, trying to process the whirlwind. Millersburg was 2 hours rear view, but the echoes of that town hall brawl lingered. Rita's venomous glare, the splintered podium, Dad's voice cracking the air like lightning. You did good back there, Chris, Anthony murmured, leaning forward to squeeze Dad's shoulder. Stood taller than you ever did on those goalposts. Dad chuckled, low and relieved, but his eyes held shadows. Cost me everything, Tony. The job, the respect. Hell, half the family's disowning me. Alex here's collateral. I glanced over, catching Dad's profile etched in dashboard glow. Worth it, Dad. For once, you're you. San Francisco glittered on the horizon like a fever dream, 3 days and 2 motels out. We crashed first in Pittsburgh, a no-tell joint off I-76 with neon vacancy signs flickering like Morse code for second chances. Anthony footed the bill, flashing a black Amex with a wink. Perks of flipping Victorian fixer-uppers to tech brothers. That night, over greasy diner fries, stories unfurled, Dad's Castro escapades, the underground clubs where drag queens lip-synced Madonna amid the plague's early whispers, Anthony's survival, burying lovers to disco dirges, rising from bartender to boardrooms with a rainbow flag pinned to his lapel. But romance bloomed tentative, like wildflowers cracking concrete. I'd catch them on the motel's threadbare balcony. Dad's head on Anthony's chest, fingers tracing faded tattoos. A panther inked in '86, snarling defiance. Their kisses started chaste, exploratory, then deepened with 40 years' hunger, hands roaming like cartographers reclaiming lost continents. I'd avert my eyes, heat rising not from disgust but a mirror's reflection. My own solitude, the apps I'd ghosted, the men I'd eyed in Chicago bars but never approached. By Reno, Nevada's neon sprawl, tensions simmered. Dad's phone buzzed relentless. Voicemails from the school board, indefinite leave. Texts from old players, betrayed. Coach, even a weepy plea from Rita. Come to Jesus, brother. This devil's leading you astray. He deleted them one by one, but each ping chipped at his resolve. What if I can't do this, Alex? He confessed over blackjack at a casino pit, chips clattering like doubts. Tony's world, it's vibrant, yeah, but I'm a fossil. What do I bring but baggage? Anthony overheard, pulling him onto the floor for a slow dance amid slot machine symphonies, bodies swaying to some phantom jazz. You bring you, Chris. The man who loved fierce enough to hide, now brave enough to shine. Their embrace drew stares, truckers in flannel, showgirls in feathers, but Anthony met every glare with a raised chin, unyielding. I slipped away, wandering the strip's chaos, Neon assaulting my senses. Eiffel Tower facades. Pirate ships spewing fire. In a dive bar off the boulevard, nursing a whiskey sour, I met Javier, a lanky bartender with inked forearms and a smile that disarmed like sunlight. East Coast transplant? He guessed, sliding my drink. Nah, Midwest exile. I shot back, and we talked till last call, his escape from Machismo, Texas, my father's unraveling. When he leaned in, breath minty with possibility, I didn't pull away. Our kiss tasted of salt and absolution, a spark in my own hidden wiring. Dawn found us piling back into the truck, Dad's mood lighter, Anthony humming Sinatra off-key. Vegas Vice cured what ails ya? He teased, and I flushed, but Dad just clapped my knee. Proud of you, son. Whatever shape it takes, the Sierras loomed next, snow-capped sentinels guarding the path to paradise. We detoured through Yosemite, granite cliffs dwarfing our fractures, waterfalls thundering like uncorked emotion. Hiking Mist Trail, Anthony slipped on slick granite, twisting his ankle, nothing broken, but enough to hobble him. Dad carried him piggyback half a mile, grunting jokes about firemen's lifts from 85, their laughter echoing off sequoias. I snapped a photo. Two men silhouetted against Vernal Falls mist, unbreakable. But betrayal's ghost haunted even here. In a ranger station payphone, Dad called an old teammate, seeking updates on the team. They're tanking without you, Coach, the voice crackled. But the whispers. Town's calling you a pedo-sympathizer. Rita's rallying the PDA. Dad hung up, face ashen, and that night in our tent under star-pricked skies, he unraveled. I poisoned them all, Tony. Those boys looked to me for strength, and I fed 'em lies. Anthony pulled him close by the campfire, embers glowing like accusations. You gave him heart, Chris. Not perfection. And Alex, he's proof, turning pain to power. But Dad pushed away, storming into the dark, leaving us with the crackle of pine logs. I followed, finding him at the river's edge, skipping stones like skipped heartbeats. Dad, talk. He hurled one hard, ripples spreading. What if I'm the villain, hid for Mom, for you, for the town, and now? Dragged Tony into this redneck revenge porn. You're human, I said, sitting on damp moss. Flawed as fuck. But loving Anthony? That's not betrayal. Hiding was. He nodded, slow, then pulled a crumpled letter from his pocket. Rita's, forwarded via motel mail drop. Sis says Mom's rolling in her grave. That I defiled her memory. Bullshit. Anger flared hot. Mom knew. Forgave. Wanted this for you. We sat till dawn, words weaving a fragile bridge. Anthony joined at first light, ankle wrapped, bearing coffee from the lodge. Truce? He offered, and Dad took the cup, then his hand. Their kiss, there by the Merced's rush, was tentative renewal, lips brushing, then claiming, bodies aligning like puzzle edges long separated. California welcomed us with fog-shrouded arms, the Bay Bridge arching like a promise. Anthony's beach house in Pacifica perched on cliffs, waves crashing below like applause. It was all reclaimed wood and ocean views, abstract art splashed with queer icons, a Warhol of a muscled torso, a Keith Haring scribble dance. Home, Anthony declared, uncorking champagne. To new chapters. We toasted, bubbles fizzing like nerves, as Dad explored, fingers trailing bookshelves lined with Tony's life, dog-eared copies of Giovanni's Room, plaques for AIDS memorials. Dinner was chuppino steaming with crab and secrets spilled. Anthony's string of partners, the ones who came and went. Dad's quiet affairs of the heart, never flesh, sustained by fantasies and faded photos. But romance deepened in the salt air. I'd wake to their murmurs on the deck, Dad's head in Anthony's lap, stories of lost years. One evening, as seals barked from the rocks below, Anthony proposed, not rings, but ringside, "Marry me, Chris." Or commit, queer style. Vows on the sand, no priest, just us and the tide. Dad hesitated, eyes on the horizon. "I'm 62, Tony. Baggage older than this house." "You're timeless," Anthony countered, pulling him up for a dance to gulls' cries. Their bodies moved fluid, hips swaying in sync. Dad's hands roaming Anthony's back with rediscovered hunger. I watched from the kitchen window, a pang twisting, joy for them, ache for my own uncharted wants. Javier's number burned in my phone. A text pinged, "Missed that smile." Road trip west. The idol shattered midweek. News from Ohio. The school board's verdict, leaked to the Cleveland Plain dealer. Harlan ousted amid personal conduct scandal. Protests escalated. Someone torched Dad's old playbook in the town square, effigy style. Rita's final blow. A certified letter. Mom's will contested. For moral turpitude, it read, Rita claiming executrix to protect family honor. Dad crumpled it in fists, veins bulging. She'd never, Rita's twisting her grave. Anthony paced, fury etching lines. Fight it. Lawyers, headlines expose the bigotry. But Dad deflated, retreating to the guest room, my room now, walls papered in faded surf prints. Let it go, Tony. I've taken enough from you. Betrayal's knife twisted deeper that night. I overheard them arguing through thin walls. Anthony's pleas. Don't self-sabotage, Chris. We earned this. Dad's whisper. Earned? I wrecked Ellen's life. Poisoned Alex's trust. You deserve whole, not wreckage. By morning, Anthony was gone. Slipped out pre-dawn. A note on the counter. Space to breathe. Love. Call when you're ready to fight. You're Tony. Dad stared at the Pacific, waves mocking his silence. I found him there, salt-crusted, eyes red-rimmed. He'll come back, Dad. But you gotta want this. He turned, voice breaking. What if I don't deserve it? Then we find out together. I hugged him, the ocean's roar drowning our sobs. Pacifica's fog clung like regret, muting the world to grays and ghosts as Dad and I rattled around Anthony's empty house. Days blurred into a limbo of takeout burritos and CNN loops, the TV droning scandals that paled against our own. Dad tinkered in the garage, Anthony's pride, lined with surfboards and half-built Adirondacks, hammering nails like they were grudges. I'd code on my laptop at the driftwood table, freelance gigs sustaining us, but my mind wandered to Javier's texts. Flirty emojis, invites to dive bars in Oakland. Come see the real Cali, he'd write, and I'd reply vague, tethered by duty. Rita's legal salvo landed like a gut punch, a summons to probate court in Millersburg, demanding Dad relinquish any inheritance. Undue influence on the deceased. Attached. Affidavits from church ladies swearing Mom's final days were marred by marital discord. Dad read it aloud, voice hollow, then torched it in the fire pit, flames devouring lies. She's weaponizing grief, he muttered, sparks rising like accusations. I booked flights back east, confrontation unavoidable. We'll face it head on, I said, packing duffels. Dad nodded, but his eyes screamed retreat. Before wheels up, I cornered him on the deck. Call Tony. Tell him we're fighting. He dialed, knuckles white, voicemail beeping. Hey. It's me. Heading home to clean house. Miss you already. Don't give up on this old quarterback. The send-off hung, vulnerable as exposed playbook. Ohio greeted us with frost-kissed fields, the airport shuttle dropping us at the family manse like exiles. Rita had commandeered it, key under the mat, her scrawl on a post-it, for the estate viewing. Prayer vigil at 7. Inside, dust motes danced in intruder light, Mom's knickknacks rearranged like evidence. Dad touched her photo on the mantel, finger tracing her smile. She'd hate this circus. The viewing was a farce. Rita and 3 cousins, Bibles open, droning psalms over notarial forms. Repent, Christopher, Rita intoned, eyes like flints. Homosexuality's an abomination. Leviticus don't lie. Dad's laugh was steel. Bible also says no mixed fabrics. Sis. Selective much. Tempers ignited. Cousin Earl lunged, calling Dad a perv, and I body-checked him into the credenza, vases shattering like illusions. Out, I roared, herding them to the porch. Rita spat scripture, but her voice cracked, grief's underbelly, twisted to rage. You killed her spirit, Chris. That secret ate her alive. Alone, Dad collapsed on the sofa, head in hands. Maybe she's right. Bullshit. I knelt, forcing his gaze. Mom loved you whole. This, Rita's fear, not fact. Night fell heavy, vigil candles flickering outside like accusations. I stepped out for air, porch light buzzing, and there, leaning on the fence, silhouette broad and familiar, Anthony. Drove straight through, he said, grin weary but wicked. Figured you'd need backup. Dad emerged, breath catching. Tony, they collided mid-yard, embrace fierce, mouths crashing in a kiss that defied the dark, tongues tangling, hands fisting shirts, 40 years famine feasting. I turned away, heart swelling, and slipped inside to give them the lawn as sanctuary. Morning brought alliance. Anthony commandeered the kitchen, whipping eggs Benedict with flair, his Brooklyn bark cutting Rita's calls. Tell your harpies probate's public, every slur on record. Dad watched him, enchanted, the domesticity a bomb. Over coffee, plans solidified. Hire a queer rights attorney from Columbus, countersue for defamation. Rally Millersburg's quiet progressives, the librarian who'd stocked Fun Home, the ex-player who'd come out last Pride. But conflict crested at the courthouse, a squat brick bunker in Worcester, flagpole clanging in wind. The gallery packed, reporters with notepads, locals with pitchfork eyes, a smattering of supporters clutching love wins signs. Rita's lawyer, a slick weasel in pinstripes, painted Dad as predator. Decades of deception, culminating in this dalliance. As his wife withered, Anthony's grip on Dad's knee was vice-tight under the bench. When our turn came, Dad took the stand, voice steady as eerie gales. I loved Ellen true, chose her over my truth to build this life. But hiding, that was the betrayal. Anthony's no interloper. He's redemption. Cross-exam tour, it seems. Admit it, Mr. Harlan. Your friendship emasculated your marriage. Dad leaned in, unflinching. Love doesn't emasculate. Lies do. Gasps rippled. Rita bolted, sobbing into her attorney's shoulder. Recess brought chaos. Flashbulbs popping. A protester hurling fag. Anthony decked him clean. New York fury unleashed. Blood on knuckles. Touch my family again, he snarled. And it's assault charges. We won provisional. Will upheld. Rita sanctioned for frivolous malice. Outside, rain lashed the steps, washing clean. Dad pulled Anthony close. Kiss rain slick and triumphant. Bodies pressed against the courthouse wall. Passionate, unashamed, hips grinding in defiant rhythm. I shielded them with my jacket, a human perimeter, as cheers erupted from allies. Back home, the house breathed freer. Anthony stayed, claiming the guest room but rarely sleeping there. Their romance flowered overt. Mornings tangled in sheets, Dad's laughter booming anew. Evenings on the porch swing, hands linked, swapping stories of lovers lost and found. I join sometimes, Javier on speaker from Oakland. Fly out, handsome. Show me that Midwest grit. And Dad would tease, go get yours, son. Life's too short for sidelines. Yet humanism's thread wove subtle, reconciliation's thorns. Rita called one frostbitten dawn, voice quavering. I saw the hearing. Mom wouldn't want this hate. Dad invited her over, neutral ground, the diner where he'd met Mom. Anthony waited in the truck, giving space. She arrived prim, pearls clutched like shields, but thawed over pie. I was scared, Chris. For you, for the town. Thought denial kept us holy. Dad covered her hand. Holiness is love, Rita. Not closets. Tears fell. Hugs followed, tentative. Bring Anthony next time, she whispered. Family's family. As winter gripped Ohio, Dad coached again, not Raiders, but a rec league for at-risk queer youth, trucked in from Akron. Anthony funded jerseys, Harlan hearts stitched bold. I'd visit weekends, Javier at my side now, his hand in mine, easy as breathing, watching Dad blow that silver whistle, boys blooming under his gaze. One spring evening, cherry blossoms dusting the backyard, Dad and Anthony wed on the sand, Pacifica calling them back, but roots run deep. Vows exchanged under gulls. I choose you, every hidden year and bold tomorrow. Rings glinted, simple titanium, engraved truth and Tony. I stood best man, Javier's arm around me, toasting with craft IPAs. To secrets unearthed, loves reclaimed. Dad pulled me aside as dusk fell, ocean sighing approval. You changed everything, Alex. Gave me courage to hear my own whisper. We drove east again. Javier shotgun, laughter filling the cab. Betrayal scars faded to stories, human, flawed, enduring. In America's vast heart, we'd carved our queer corner, one honest mile at a time. But wait, the plot thickened, controversy's embers not fully quenched. Months later, a letter arrived, anonymous, postmarked Millersburg, enclosing a grainy photo, Dad and Anthony, mid-kiss on our porch, circled in red. Sinners beware, scrawled beneath. Threat? Prank? Rita swore ignorance, but doubt lingered. Dad burned it, but sleep evaded. What if it's not over? He confided to Anthony, voices carrying through walls. Then we face it, Anthony replied, fierce. Together. Always. I wired my own network. Hacked traces leading to a disgruntled ex-player. Grudge-fueled. Confronted him at a dive. Javier backing me. Grow up, man. Coach gave you wings, don't clip his. He crumbled. Apology emailed. Story quashed. Peace settled. Fragile but real. Summer brought full circle. Dad's induction to the Ohio High School Hall of Fame. Ironic honor amid scandal's wake. Anthony walked him the red carpet. Hand in hand. I brought Javier. Our fingers laced. Rita attended, clapping loudest. Her own coming out whispered later. Widower from church. Who knew? The ceremony's speech. Dad at podium. Lights hot. Crowd hushed. 40 years hidden. One whisper freed me. To my Ellen. My anchor. To Anthony. My horizon. To Alex. My mirror. Thank you for the truths that remade me. Applause thundered. Tears flowed. Backstage. Embraces piled. Family whole. Loves intertwined. As we drove into twilight, Javier's head on my shoulder. Dad and Anthony harmonizing off-key to the radio. I knew change isn't linear, but in the mess, grace blooms. America's promise. Not perfection, but possibility, one revealed heart at a time. Autumn leaves carpeted Millersburg streets like confetti from a half-remembered parade, the air crisp with cider and change. Dad's new gig coaching those queer kids had taken root, practices on the community field, where he'd once thundered at straight-laced jocks, now echoed with tentative cheers and rainbow wristbands. Anthony dove in, too, sponsoring drills with protein bars and "You Are Enough" teas, his realtor savvy turning donations into gear. I'd shuttle between Ohio and California, Javier's job at a Napa vineyard pulling me west, our long distance a sweet ache of FaceTime foreplay and surprise visits. But the photo threat lingered like a bad aftertaste, anonymous poison in our mailbox. Dad waved it off publicly, haters gonna hate, but nights found him pacing, Anthony's reassurances a lullaby he couldn't trust. It's the town, he'd mutter, staring at the ceiling fan's whirl. Echoes of my own shame. One crisp Saturday, it escalated. Practice wrapped early, boys scattering to bikes and buses. When a pickup roared up, bed loaded with hay bales, but the driver, a burly local in a MAGA cap, hurled epithets, teaching him to be freaks. Harlan, your fag parade ends here. He gunned the engine, tires spinning gravel like shrapnel, clipping Anthony's fender as he shielded a wide-eyed teen. Chaos erupted. Dad charging the truck, fists balled, me tackling him back. The kid, 17, trans, voice cracking, sobbing into Anthony's chest. Cops arrived, lights flashing blue-red redemption, but the driver vanished into corn rows, plates muddied. No arrests, just reports and Rita's apologetic pie drop-off. Heard it was Cousin Earl's boy. Families fractured. Chris. I'm trying. Anthony iced his bruised ribs. Grin wry. Welcome to the club, bigot bingo. But Dad brooded, canceling the next session. Can't risk him. Or you. The betrayal cut fresh. Not just the town, but Dad's internal saboteur, whispering unworthiness. Anthony confronted it head-on. Over bourbon on the porch swing that night, stars pricking the velvet sky. You're not Atlas, Chris. Let me carry some. Dad's hand trembled in his. You already have. Left your empire for this podunk purgatory. Anthony pulled him astride his lap. Faces inches. Breath mingling. Empire's empty without you. Their kiss ignited slow. Exploratory. Lips parting. Tongues dancing tentative. Then urgent. Hands roamed. Anthony's under Dad's flannel, tracing the ridge of spine. Dad's fisting dark hair, pulling deeper. The swing creaked rhythm, hips grinding in shadowed hunger, gasps swallowed by cricket chorus. I glimpsed from the kitchen window, turning away flushed, not voyeur, but witness to reclamation, their bodies a defiant symphony against the dark. Javier called then, timing impeccable. Heard about the asshole? Fly out, Napa needs your fire. I booked the red eye, but not before hugging Dad fierce. Fight for this. For them. For you. California enveloped me like a lover's arms. Vineyards rolling gold under October sun. Javier's cabin nestled in oak groves. Wood smoke curling inviting. He met me at the gate, kiss hungry, whisking me to harvest crush. Grapes bursting underfoot, laughter amid the yeast-scent chaos. Nights tangled in flannel sheets, his body a map of ink and intent. Tattoos telling tales of rodeos and revelations, hands mapping my contours with reverence. You're home, he murmured post-climax. Sweat slick and sated, and I believed it, the Midwest's pull loosening. But East called insistent. Dad texted updates. Attorney filings against the trucker, community rally planned, queer and kin, Millersburg stands. Anthony's voice note. Your old man's glowing, babe. Miss your snark. I flew back for the event. Landing to rainbow flags snapping from lampposts. A crowd swelling the square. Hundreds, not dozens. Farmers with pitchforks turned allies. Church ladies waving God loves all banners. Even the trans kid leading chants. Dad emceed, mic in hand. Anthony at his side like a sentinel. This town's my blood, he boomed, voice carrying over the murmur. We bleed red, white, blue, and every hue in between. To the haters, your fear's the real outlaw. To my loves, thank you for the courage. Cheers deafened. Rita took the stage next. Voice quaver but steady. I was wrong. Mom taught mercy. Time I learned. Hugs rippled. Fractures mending. Post-rally, the after-party at our house pulsed alive. Bonfire roaring, s'mores sticky sweet, stories swapping like currency. Anthony and Dad slow dance to Indigo Girls on the boombox. Bodies flush, whispers intimate. Anthony's lips grazing Dad's ear, eliciting shivers. Javier arrived late, dusty from the drive, pulling me into the shadows for a stolen makeout. His stubble rasping promise. Missed this mouth, as embers died. Couples paired off. Dad and Anthony vanishing to the master. Door clicking soft. Javier and I claiming the attic. Sleeping bags unzipped under rafters. Their lovemaking filtered up faint. Moans muffled. Bed frame protesting rhythmic and ours joined chorus. Javier's thrusts deep and declarative. Bodies sinking in the dark. Dawn brought clarity. Dad over breakfast, announcing expansion. Leagues growing Akron. Toledo chapters. Tony's pitching investors. Anthony nodded, foot hooking Dad's under table. And a podcast, Closet to comeback. Your stories. Chris. I pitched in, I'll code the site. Javier's got vineyard connections for fundraisers. Plans snowballed, ambition alight. But climax loomed, betrayal's final act. 2 weeks later, mid-podcast pilot, Dad mid-anecdote on his first Castro kiss, the feed hacked, slurs scrolling, deepfake audio splicing Dad's voice to Venom. Grooming's my game. Kids, join the fun. Listeners flooded out. Sponsors ghosted. Dad shattered, hurling the mic. Who? Why now? Traces led to Earl's boy. Grudge eternal. Tech-savvy from community college. We stormed his trailer. Javier's truck rumbling warning. He confessed tearful. Screen grabs of Rita's concerned emails fueling his fire. Aunt said protect the family. Rita arrived. Summoned. Face crumpling. I vented. Not incited, but evidence mounted. She collapsed, wailing forgiveness. The hacks fall out, the phoenix rise. National press swarmed. Heartland hack. Queer coach targeted. Drawing donors. Celebs voicing support. Neil Patrick Harris tweeting solidarity. A GoFundMe exploding millions. Dad's podcast relaunch tripled. Episodes raw with guest tales. Survivors. Allies. Even Rita's halting apology. Romance deepened in victory's glow. Dad and Anthony eloped to Vancouver, quiet, maple-scented, no fanfare, just vows on a fjord pier, rings exchanged to loon calls. I officiated via Zoom. Javier beside me. Our own commitment whispered post-feed. Tahoe next summer? Back in Millersburg. Winter thawed to spring. The field green again. Dad's whistle pierced air. Boys running plays with pride. Anthony refereed. Whistle's twin. I'd visit. Javier in tow. Our hands visible. Unashamed. One game night. Under stadium lights. Dad pulled me aside. That whisper by your mom's bed? It freed us all. Anthony joined. Arms linking. To family, blood. Chosen. Endless. We watched the kickoff. Hearts full. America's messy miracle unfolding play by play. Summer scorched the heartland gold. Fireflies winking like conspirators in the deepening dusk as Millersburg's rec field thrummed with life. Dad's league had ballooned, 20 teams now. From Cleveland Rust Belt to Toledo's Riverbend. Kids of all stripes converging for tournaments under banners fluttering, play true. Anthony's corporate wizardry had secured grants from HRC and corporate rainmakers, turning dusty diamonds into showcases. Scoreboards blinking, concession stands slinging vegan dogs alongside brats. I'd flown in from California, Javier's hand warm in mine, our Tahoe wedding a fresh tattoo on soles, simple bands, vows etched in aspen shade, a justice from the local res officiating with sage smoke and laughter. The championship game crackled electric. Our Millersburg Mavericks versus Akron's Pride Panthers, stands packed with a tapestry of faces. Tattooed dykes cheering beside pearl-clutching grannies, Rita in the bleachers waving a foam finger. Her new beau, a silver-haired pastor with a rainbow stole, beaming beside. Dad paced the sidelines, whistle gleaming, his frame leaner from runs on Pacifica bluffs. Anthony's influence evident in the salt-streaked tan and easy swagger. Eyes up, hearts out, Dad bellowed, and the boys, trans defenders, gay quarterbacks, straight allies barking encouragement, moved like a unit, fluid and fierce. Halftime tied, sweat-soaked huddles steaming. Anthony slung an arm around Dad's waist. Murmur low. They're yours, Chris. Mirrors of the man you hid. Dad leaned in. stealing a sideline kiss, brief, bold, drawing whoops from the crowd. A few hisses drowned in applause. Javier nudged me, grin sly, like father, like son. Remember our first field frolic? I flushed, memory flashing. Post-wedding hike, tumbling into meadow grass, bodies urgent under alpine stars, his thrusts sinking with wind-whipped pines. Shut it. I laughed, but pulled him closer, our public affection a quiet revolution. The second half surged dramatic. Panthers pulling ahead on a fluke fumble, Mavericks clawing back with a rainbow route touchdown. The scorer, a lanky non-binary wideout named Riley, spiking the ball and pointing heavenward, tears streaking mud. Final play, 4th and goal, clock ticking venom. Dad signaled the audible, eyes locking on his QB, a freckled 16-year-old who'd come out to jeers but stayed. Snap, hike, scramble, toss, a spiral arcing perfect, leather-kissing gloves in the end zone. Touchdown. 28-27. Mavericks win. The field erupted, bodies piling, whistles shrilling, Dad hoisted on shoulders like a trophy. Anthony claimed him mid-air, kiss crashing triumphant, tongues visible, hands cupping jaws, the crowd's roar a baptism. Rita rushed the pile, hugging fierce. Even Earl's boy, mandated to community service, clapped from the fence, redemption's first step. After-party sprawled our backyard, grills smoking ribs and tofu, coolers sweating IPAs, a DJ spinning RuPaul remixes till speakers popped. Dad and Anthony held court by the fire pit, stories flowing like the Pinot Javier smuggled from Napa, tales of underground balls in 80s SF, where Dad learned to vogue in fishnets, Anthony voguing now on the grass, hips popping to supermodel, Dad joining clumsy but game, laughter bubbling. I danced with Javier, bodies grinding slow to the beat, his breath hot on neck. This life's ours now, but as stars wheeled, a shadow crossed, Rita, pulling Dad aside, voice pitched urgent. I eavesdropped from the cooler shadows. Chris. The cancer. Docs say it's genetic. Mom's line. Get tested. Dad stilled, Anthony's hand finding his. And, clear, she said, tears glinting. But Earl's boy. He's spiraling. That hack, tip of it. Needs help, not hate. Humanism's call. Dad nodded, pulling her into the circle. We'll get him counseling. League scholarship. Maybe, Anthony chimed. My therapist in the Bay specializes in conversion trauma survivors. Pro bono. Resolution rippled. By dawn. Plans sketched. Intervention gentle. Boundaries firm. Rita's beau offered church space. Rebranded Grace Haven. All welcome. As embers cooled, couples drifted, Javier and I to the hammock. Swaying lazy, his fingers tracing my chest hair. Kisses deepening to lazy handjobs under blanket cover. Release soft as sighs. Dad and Anthony vanished inside, but their door stayed cracked. Moans carrying faint, bed frame tattooing rhythm, a nocturne of rediscovery. Monday brought closure's arc. The podcast's season finale, recorded live from the Fieldhouse. Dad at the mic, Anthony co-hosting, guests arrayed, Riley on coming out mid-season, Rita on bigotry's blinders, even the hacker kid, voice cracking. I was angry at my own mirror. Coach showed me grace. Listens spiked global. Invites poured TEDx talks. Oprah couch. But Dad demurred. This town's my stage. Anthony grinned. Ours? Love. Pacifica winters. Ohio summers. Compromise bloomed. Bi-coastal. A condo in the Castro for Dad's writing sabbatical. Memoir in works. Whistle in the closet. I'd edit. Javier illustrating covers with vineyard vines twining rainbows. Fall folded in gentle. Leaves turning as we packed the house for Rita's stewardship. Mom's heirlooms to her. Dad's jerseys to the league. Final night. Bonfire roaring one last hurrah. Dad raised a toast. To Ellen's ghost, who whispered forgiveness. To Anthony's fire, that thawed my frost. To Alex and Javier, echoes of our bold. Glasses clinked. Hugs lingered. As we drove west, Javier's truck laden. Dad and Anthony tailing in the RV they'd tricked queer bedroom in back. Pride flags whipping. I glanced rear view. Millersburg shrinking. Not farewell, but foothold. San Francisco swallowed us whole. Foghorns moaning welcome. The Castro's pulse sinking our steps. Dad's first reading at a Castro bookstore drew lines around the block. Queers of all vintages. Nodding to passages of hidden hurts. Anthony beamed from the front row. Hand over heart. Javier and I settled deeper. His cabin our base, but city jaunts for gallery shows. His abstracts fetching Napa elite. Our love matured. Fights over chores dissolving to make up sex on kitchen islands. Dreams merging. A queer farm retreat. Vines and volunteers healing old wounds. One Christmas. Full circle. Rita flew out, bow in tow, toasting eggnog by Golden Gate fog. Mom'd approve, she said, eyeing Dad and Anthony's intertwined fingers. Love's the real inheritance. Spring brought the memoir's launch. Unhidden playbook. Bestseller overnight. Proceeds to youth leagues. Tour stops blurred. NYC pride floats. LA panels but home anchored. Pacifica deck. Waves crashing as Dad pens sequels. Anthony pitching films. Climax's echo faded. Betrayal transmuted to testimony. Dad confided one twilight. Anthony napping inside. That hospital whisper? It wasn't goodbye to your mom. It was hello to us. I nodded. Javier's call buzzing. Vineyard tour? Bring the dads. Laughter rose. Easy. Years unspooled. Dad and Anthony's silver anniversary on that fjord. Vows renewed with grandkids. Mine and Javier's. Adopted from the system. Towheads tumbling on sand. Rita's church a beacon. Earl's boy coaching now. His own husband refereeing. At 65, Dad blew the whistle one last game. Retirement tourney. Legacy etched. Post-victory. Under stadium lights. He pulled Anthony close. 40 years hid. 50 will shine. Kiss eternal. Crowd chanting. I held Javier. Our boys cheering. America's arc bending, dramatic. Disputed, but toward light. In the end, the whisper that shattered remade. Not tragedy, but triumph human-scaled. Love's playbook unbound.